ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on, we thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Fable. Today on What the Hell, we're going to talk with Todd. How do you spell? How do you pronounce your last name? Heath. Okay. Todd Heath. He's Hephaestus Industrial Industry.
Yes.
Okay. And you're basically wanting to invent stuff or whatever products have you invented so far? There goes the needing caffeine part.
Yes, caffeine's important.
Yeah. What is it? Was in the military the most signed nicotine, caffeine, and ibuprofen?
Yes, that keeps us moving forward.
Oh yes. So go ahead and tell us about yourself and tell us about your company.
Okay. Me and myself, I graduated from Texas A&M as an oceanographer. Worked in the oil fields for a while. I was also in the Army and did that for 5 years active, 5 reserves, and been to Iraq a few times. And now I still work for the government and as a physical scientist. And my side business is Hephaestus Industries. I basically did a patenting licensing agreement with NASA on their excavator rovers that they designed and built. And so I'm trying to bring that to the market for when NASA starts landing back on the moon in the next 3 years, that
3 years
we'll have the equipment to start mining and construction of the moon, to start building moon bases and go from there.
I thought it was less than that we're going to land on the moon.
It was pushed back to 2025 because Biden couldn't talk people into giving enough money to NASA.
Oh, okay.
Coming up after Trump, and that would have gave a win to Trump too. And Democrats don't like Trump, and Trump don't like Democrats. So
yeah, it's one of those hard things that you want to move. That's the reason why I hate politics.
Yes,
people wanted me to get into politics. It's like, fuck that. I like to move shit going.
Do you hate yourself enough to go into politics? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. If you're willing to be one of those people that just, okay, here's the idea, we'll plan it out. It won't probably be in your administration and it'll happen, but it'll be there. I'm like, no. That's the reason why I think a lot of people don't understand. And I don't like career politicians, one iota.
Yes.
But it's one of those necessary evils because there's a lot of people that run for Congress or Senate. They're still trying to get done the one thing they promised their people they would get done.
That's right.
And
they can't do it because politicians are supposed to be able to negotiate with each other, give up some things to get some things to move our country forward. And right now, neither one want to actually talk and work things out to move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
are you allowed to talk about the excavators? Any of it?
Yes, I can actually. Right now, I've already been designing, was already making the parts for it and assembling it.
Now, are you
So I
using
just
for-
got finished doing another order of parts they have cut out and sent to me. And I'll have my first one. I'm hoping within the next month. I already have the electric motors, I have the processors, I have the batteries, and it just comes down to getting them in, bending it out, riveting it or welding it, depends however I decide to do it,
okay,
and getting
so
the
you're
first
not-
one or two done. And but see, NASA has a whole plan for the moon base already. The
okay,
layout, because you need like a berm between the landing pad and the actual base. And then you have to have the power generation area, and that can't be by the base because they want to put the actual base inside like the Shackleton crater.
Oh,
And
okay.
so there's no sun down there. That's where they can actually get to the ice and stuff that's trapped on the moon, and that's at the South Pole.
Okay.
So you're going to have solar panels and possibly nuclear generators up above the rim. So that means we got to build a road from where though that equipment is and bury cables all the way down to the living areas.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of construction that needs to be done and moving basically regolith from one area to another. We are designing the equipment to make roads by melting the regolith in place. And because some of the companies right now that are looking at building landing areas stuff in that area is talking about using a rocket that just hovers in place, melts the equipment or the rock, and then it flies off and crashes. I think that's kind of a wasteful thing. So one of my equipment will actually go up, connect to the human landing system rocket, either SpaceX or somebody else, but mainly SpaceX right now, use their fuel and use that as a burner to melt the rock behind it and make a road and path. That way the rovers and anything else that NASA has for the astronauts who work around on can walk on it and not get dust on them, so they don't bring it into the environments, because dust is actually really bad on the moon. But you also, when we gather it and build the berms and everything else, then you can start processing the ore. And I already got the paperwork drawn up to how to process the ore in a manufacturing style, not just what NASA's been working on, what just pour it into a bucket, heat it up, and then you got to figure out, got to empty that bucket, fill it back up again. That's wasteful. Yeah. So we're designing that process too, so we can get the equipment or the regoliths separated to all the constituents, the gas, the iron, the aluminum, the titanium. And after that's done, then you can process it and sell ingots, or process the metal to like whatever you want to sell it. Because under the president's program, anything we mine is ours. I can sell it.
Okay.
Anything that I can't own the property, but as long as I'm mining it, pick it up and move it, it comes down to my company can actually do something with it.
Okay.
So we're gonna basically help build and start processing the ore, so that when somebody else comes along and says, hey, I want to build something, and we can say, we got the iron, we got the aluminum, titanium, whatever you need the material for, and the gases, we got rocket fuel, we got water, we got metal, we'll sell it to you and you can do whatever.
Okay, so you're basically setting everything up to process on the moon instead of bringing it back. Because there was,
I mean, technically, yes, we can gather out the lithium that's on the moon.
Okay.
And bring it back and build car batteries or whatever you want, but we can also do it there. And then you got SpaceX that wants to build two there, because it'd be a great experiment area before going to Mars.
Yeah,
and SpaceX has already stated they want to have a colony basically started by 2030.
Okay.
They're way like 10 years ahead of NASA on that point. But it's his money. He can do what he wants. and he will need the equipment I build there too.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I was looking over the economics part of it right now, because a lot of people were speculating, and this is like back in the day, because I got in this trope of that whole the G.I. Joe movie where they had the tungsten rod shoot down and everything like that, and it would take $10,000 per pound to
Yeah.
shoot out, but they're trying to get it down to $100 per pound.
SpaceX, if they work it out, will probably get down to probably $10.
Yeah. So you're not getting all this material and everything to bring it back to Earth. You're getting all the material to build a base on the moon. Now,
Right.
so it would be a little bit, from what I understand and I speculate, it's going to be a little bit easier. I mean, you got the rotation of the moon around the Earth, but it's a better jump from the moon to Mars. I mean, it's basic logistics.
Yeah, because you'll spend the same amount of fuel roughly to go from Earth to the moon as Earth to Mars.
Yeah.
There's not too much difference in the cost of to get your delta V and stuff. And if you're not in any hurry, it's actually faster if we go from Earth, spin around the moon, take a gravity assist, go slingshot down to Venus, take another gravity assist, and go to Mars. It's quicker using the fuel we have. When you start throwing in other exotic drives like ion drives and nuclear drives, then it changes that calculations. Even the Dr. White, his proposal that he created recently and got, came out in, I think it was May of this year. Dr. Harold White.
I think it was May or April. I was like in between. It was like the end of April and beginning of May where he came that up.
Yeah.
So
there was so many different things when he came out. Says, "Oh, while I was working on the Casimir effect for DARPA, I accidentally found this," and he ended up showing that a warp field bubble was created in the thing, and that actually means if he can get the money to fund it. And because the company he works for now, or not company, it's charity, has this COO of SpaceX working with them.
Yeah.
So it's actually a nice little effect, but that is the faster than light travel.
Yes.
So technically, us from Earth to Mars in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out your startup time, how long it takes to ramp up and slow down. But
and the shielding for going into something like that faster.
Well, the warp field bubble will actually make a field around it to help push away any.
There's that theory, and there's also there's that theory, and there's another theory of having the ship itself being able, like the SR-71 Blackbird.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody knows, the SR-71 Blackbird is the parts on the plane are actually opened up a little bit. I mean,
it makes it expand as it heats up, as it moves through the atmosphere. Yeah, that's why it leaks so much fluid on the tarmac.
Yeah, that's why they don't actually fill it up fully when they on the ground, and they fill it up in the air, because once it gets going, it actually has less fuel. But the other thing I was actually interested in is the ion drives. I love the ion drives. I mean, they're huge. So far that they made them and everything like that. They're not right as small as you think. But dude, I've been waiting for a TIE fighter. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's completely, in complete honesty, it's well within the possibility of doing it, because after we have a moon base or a base, and the Gateway Foundation is talking about building their bases, and after that, the first one, I think they said the second and third one, it will eventually get to a point they could pop one out every week to a month, full size, 250,000 square meter base.
Oh wow.
orbiting space. And basically, it just brings the equipment up. It has a surround section that just assembles it, welds it, and it moves around. And so you have end up with a big donut shape, basically, with all the internal parts already assembled, everything. And you can talk about space hotels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And after you get that, it'll be real easy for crazy people like you and me and other ones that be like, well, build a group of TIE fighters and X-Wings that people can rent. You have your little squadrons and have, one little sealed room that's heavily insulated, have them go out there, play around a little bit with so much fuel and have it automatically say, I'm at this much fuel, turns around and comes back. That way you don't have to worry about, if the idiot does fly farther away, because that's all he's an idiot, then have them recovery ship go out and charge them way more money than you ever think possible to go get him, bring him back. But you could actually do something like that real easily because you're not worried about getting in the atmosphere. You're not worried about anything else. And you can simulate your lasers to decide on how it hits, what force it is. And the computer calculates it all. And you just come back in. It automatically attaches like the SpaceX Dragon does now to the International Space Station.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to actually, I'm a skilled pilot, I can do it myself. No, the computer will do it. It just shuts you completely out, does it, connects, opens up and say, get out for the next person.
It just sounds a very expensive way to play laser tag, but it would be
But
awesome.
if you did something like that, the greatest thing is you could rent that out to Space Force and the Air Force to train their pilots.
Exactly.
And because until you make something of some kind, they really don't know what they want or any kind of tactics or anything like that. Yes, it might be for no reason to have the pilots do nothing else, but at least if we ever really need a true Space Force that is armed, then you have tactics already figured out. You don't have to sit there, but just stupid training.
Yeah. Now on the scale of would you eventually be able to set all your stuff up to Mars? Because a lot of people don't understand that Mars has their ground, their soil is very acidic. I mean, they had to they were gonna do, I think it's like a mixture of like ceramics and everything like that to actually build like a 3D printer building buildings on Mars.
The percolates in the soil that needs to be processed out when they actually start building.
Yes.
And anything else, because percolates and the salt don't interact well with organic material. But that's actually a really easy thing to wash out and get rid of. Then you can sit there, and as long as you got CO2 in the atmosphere, then it's easy to convert any carbon chain to something else. It might take heat, radiation, whatever force to convert it into other kind of plastics. And then you can actually bond it with anything material wise to do 3D printing. And also Elon was talking about using the Boring Company on it to help carve out, caves and everything else. And also Mars also has volcano tubes, lava tubes, like they have on the moon and in Hawaii and stuff. But the size difference, you go to Hawaii, you got lava tubes that might be 30 feet in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
On the moon, your lava tubes can be up to 300 feet high and 1,200 feet wide, and might stretch for many kilometers.
Okay.
And on Mars, they're going to be a little bit smaller, but you're still probably looking at 100 some odd feet high and 600, 700 feet wide and how many kilometers. So you still either enter that up and build up pressure, you got sealed environments right there.
Okay. Now on those particulates, that was another thing. And when I watched this video of all the stuff they were doing and everything like that, are you able to use those particulates for other uses and everything? Okay. What's some of the uses from those particulates?
Well, the particulates can be broken down to its main constituents. You got basically it's a form of salt, and I forgot to see potassium, phosphorus. It doesn't, well, basically after you wash the elements out, those percolates, and then you separate your water again from it to get the particulates out, and you can heat that up to where it's by a laser completely separate them all into their constituent elements, and then you can have the gases recondense as say helium, hydrogen, carbon, sodium, and save them in containers that you can actually re-add later to whatever you're building.
So
So
basically,
you just can have your elements ready to go to create whatever you need.
basically the other building blocks of
Mhm.
life. Okay, yeah. Now, how far along? You're not using any kind of plastic 3D parts that you actually make yourself.
Mine is pretty much all metal.
Okay.
And I'll probably go with ceramic when I go later on because the heat characteristics are so much better. And that way it will can handle micrometeorites hitting it, stuff like that. I also are working with another company that is actually making ballistic armor that wants to cover my rovers with that and to help them hold up.
Okay.
And it shows that in that way they can show off their equipment and show how well it holds up. They just need to work on making sure it handles the extreme heat and cold. And because
Yeah.
that breaks down on some ballistic material.
Yeah, because some of the ballistic ceramics and everything like that, it's the reason why we didn't use ceramic that much ceramics, like the dragon scale armor and everything like that. That was supposed to be the best armor that we have, is because it would I forget if either the packaging or the heating elements from like certain things didn't hold.
Yeah, because under extreme cold, they become extremely brittle.
That's what
And
it was.
you
Cold.
have one hit and you take out the whole pad.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it's too hot, then you might actually get it to separate. So you have to have a insulation layer, pretty much like the ceramics, to go over the top, true ceramic rock, not just the ballistic, like what you had, to go over the top. That way it stays in the shade and it stays cool all the time.
Yeah.
You would much rather have it cold than hot.
Okay. Now, on certain instances to where you're going to have to repair the rover and everything like that, are you going to make it to where it's going to be like a swap out type deal, or?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to basically make it as robust and as stupidly simple as possible.
Unlike most engineers that like to overdo everything.
Well, yeah, I'm used to working in the oil field and the army and stuff. And if you can make it extremely robust where it can take a beating and keep working, that matters more than, oh, I would like it to get to the point like what Tesla is doing with their front end and rear assemblies, where it's just casting at one piece at one time.
Yes.
And
the one
that way
building
takes 30 seconds to assemble most of the parts. And if I can do something like that, that means most of my costs will go into just the battery alone. And it will break down it'll break it down to enough that you can say they're expendable.
Yeah.
And until we actually have a working moon base, there's no point to have something that needs to be serviced anytime soon. So if we can take like 100 up there, and by the time the astronauts get there, we only have 50 working, then we can have one of the astronauts trained up on the equipment, or NASA or whoever's leasing the equipment from us can pay one of our employees to go up there and service the equipment
Okay.
and fix all the problems with it, get everything up and running, and then have them fly back.
Okay. So that was another thing. I mean, if you have only like 50 working, how easily would it be to just swap the components to the other machines?
Well, if you say you start out with 100 and you got down to 50, the probability is that some of them were hit by a micrometeorite that took out a motherboard, or hit by something that took out a electric motor. So you could technically, the odds of it being hit in the same spot every single time is extremely low. So you could easily just say, hey, we don't need to haul any parts up there. We just take the parts and scavenge them off, and you can probably get everything back up to running within, 80, 90 of them at one time, until you can start taking extra parts.
Okay.
But with Starship's capability of taking 125 tons to low Earth orbit, get refueled, and go farther, or the newer one that they're talking about that could end up being a stretched one that can do 225 tons to low Earth orbit, and then refuel and go to the moon and land, you're talking about a lot of them, because I'm figuring our rovers will probably be less than 1,000 pounds. And if they can assemble them there, just basically pull it up, push it onto the gear, pop a pin in, and the wheels are on. Something that simple. Then you can stack them really dense. And, technically you could take I guess you say a storage one, or a supply vessel, or one that does a 225 tons. You can land it, completely drop off 220 some odd rovers that will work 16 hours a day, and then take 8 hours to charge the batteries back up.
Okay.
And have AI controlled, so they constantly interact and avoid each other. And you can have controllers down here that would work on the computers controlling them and do stuff like that. And when they're not working for NASA or one of the countries that we have signed the Artemis Accords with, then we can go off and use them for ourselves and mine, and start building up piles of regolith and everything else to start processing. Because everything we got here on the Earth, we have on the moon. So all the lithium, the gold, all that. And maybe we might eventually get to a point where we can bring something back. Then you can sit there and say, hey, this is a ring of gold from the moon. Your girlfriend might like that more than just, this is gold from the slave dealers down in Africa. I love you. You're like, this one's from the moon. It's certified.
Have one of those things. Is like, this isn't Earth gold. This is moon gold. This is what this is how much I love you.
How much value would that increase everything? How much a diamond from the moon be worth?
Not that much. I mean,
no, diamonds are cheap.
Yes,
but if you have the bars or the bears or whatever they are called, saying our diamonds are this expensive. Yeah, but this is from the moon, and I'm certifying it's from the moon.
Okay.
So you want to inflate your diamonds to cover that cost of your stuff? I can inflate my diamonds to cover the cost of whatever I want.
Yeah, that's really says a lot of people don't know is diamonds are actually very, very abundant.
Yes.
they are not as rare as the jewelers like to say it is.
When you take your jewelry to the metal broker, he cares more about your diamonds and everything else. Yes, he was like, oh yes, that's a real diamond, but he doesn't count it as your gold, and he normally doesn't give you anything for the diamonds. He'll send them off someplace else because they have to be graded, everything else, and it's a long, tedious thing. But gold is real quick and easy to,
process through.
Yeah.
Because when I was over in Bahrain, I bought a bunch of gold and everything like that. And the way they sell their jewelry and everything is by weight, not actually by the how much the jewelry would cost.
Yes.
And I would come back and I would like wait a year, maybe two, and just sell it all in, gain the profit and everything from that. It's just if you're able to do stuff like that, it's a lot of profitability for you. But
Oh, yes.
on the you said you're gonna have are you gonna have actual people there to run the machines or anything, or is it just gonna be Earth?
No, mainly here on Earth in the moon, we can control them from here. There's not that much of a time delay really to operate the equipment. And you
Are they
can, if we have AI systems, stuff
Are
like
they going to
that.
have satellites set up to where it's going to because back in what was it, Apollo 11, they had like a blackout to where you couldn't get a signal and everything.
Yeah, because
I was
how the
wondering
moon goes around, and like when it gets over the Pacific, at the time there was very few stations that were pointing up in the Pacific, so
Oh,
they didn't
okay,
really
yeah.
have like contact with Apollo and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
And but all the land, you had Australia, then you had India, Europe, but now we got so many satellites, and not to mention when we do start going back, it won't take nothing for say Elon to sit there and kick out 50 satellites to circumnavigate the whole moon, providing GPS to it and communications,
okay, yeah.
because he could do that with one launch and put enough satellites around it to completely blanket the whole moon, and or at least the our side, because if they turn around and just leave the satellites to go from polar region to polar region, they can pretty much keep it steady on the light side.
Okay.
Because the dark side, if the we don't send any really major satellites there to go over it, it makes a great antenna or great place for telescopes, radio telescopes, and any kind of size telescopes we want. We can put on the moon facing outwards, and you don't have to constantly edit your pictures to take out satellites running it through the screen as the astronauts taking their pictures of the night sky like they do right now.
Okay. Now, on what you said, there was the signal that was delayed. Are you going to have like a more or less I mean, we have it now more or less, but are you going to have like an AI to where
Yes,
it just sets up to?
we're already working on the software for that, and so the programmer battle buddy I have, he's working on that at his side job, basically just doing that. And I'm doing all the mechanical part and the wiring, and he's doing the software part of it to get controlled. And I figure we'll probably have like 6 or 7 different styles of rovers to do different kinds of construction work and mining. And so some of them might not be used very often, some might get used a lot. And then when it gets to the point where Elon is going to Mars and there is a group of people already there, then yes, we will probably end up hiring people that do crew rotations to Mars, or pay people that's already there to control the equipment.
No.
And then it will get, because with it being on that planet, you could actually start mining the equipment, process, build more rovers and other equipment, because mine it, process the metals, and start really building up. Because the only thing that limits us right here is us launching from here to the moon. After we get on the moon and start processing the ore, then you can turn around and say, we can start building massive equipment to really do construction on a much bigger scale.
Yep.
And you could do that really good on Mars. You can also do it on the moon too, but it's just, we got to get there first, start doing it, and then start increasing in size and scope.
Have you factored in the different of the gravity for the drilling and everything like that?
Yes, and the NASA luckily did this for the original excavators, and that we got the patent for. And Mars is 1/3. The moon is 1/6 gravity. So it just slows things down. It doesn't, you don't have an atmosphere on the moon, so it still falls toward the ground as fast.
Okay.
That way you can, if you fall on the moon and there's no atmosphere, you're gonna hit the ground just as fast as you would here on Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
But with the atmosphere slowing you down, then you don't hit as hard. And that's why we need to, in my humble opinion, need to hurry up and get that going for when I'm too old to walk on Earth. I can walk in a habitat on the moon, and when I fall, it won't hurt as bad.
Yeah, my hips are already getting. I'm like, I'm about to be 44. My hips are just, my right hip is really starting to go. My knees are already shot. If I don't pop it in a certain time frame, I'm like, oh yay.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is eventually that's my retirement area. I need to hurry up and start building there for I can still be really active if there's only 1/6 gravity.
Oh yeah.
I might could actually slam a basketball finally.
Yes.
Because like the moon, if you turn around and blocked off one of the lava tubes and sealed it up, you got a habitat, you can make it whatever you want. You can have a 10-story building inside the cave, have it punch out through the top and have a dome that you can see the stars, everything from the top. And then another part of it, you can actually use it for storage of gas.
Yeah.
And if you stored up the gas and start building it up for like rocket fuel for Starship methane, then you make it more like I think it's Titan, one of Saturn's or Jupiter's moons that actually has a
Saturn.
methane atmosphere.
It's Saturn.
And well, if you have that and you start building up the pressure, then it's already heated from living area, stuff like that. Put you on a nice wetsuit, put you on a regulator, slap some wings on, and you can practice your flying by hand with wings up to 300 feet high in these lava tubes.
Oh yeah.
And
okay, yeah.
You can practice your soaring and flapping of the wings and everything else, and enjoy yourself.
It's also one of those things is the different training that you're going to have when you're in outer space, because it would probably be beneficial because we still have gravity. I mean, even when you're going into one of those what is it, free fall tubes and everything like that, you still have to deal with gravity. You still have to deal with I'm trying to be smart by using this word, atmospheric pressure and weight.
That's right.
But when you're dealing with stuff like that, you really don't have to worry about, and you can actually more simulate to a flight.
Because you can actually, in those lava tubes and stuff, you can actually simulate pressure we have here on Earth really well. And you can even increase pressure to make it for you can actually put some wings on and flap around like a bird, and something as dense as water. And you can, basically swim like a fish too. And it's just, how dense of gas you have to get what effect you want. Do you want to fly like a bird or do you want to swim like a fish? Yeah. Because we're going to need liquids and stuff like that and gas and fuel and on the moon. So why not just take those areas, seal them up, and make habitats and then storage areas, and take advantage of the storage areas. Say, hey, let me practice my flying skills for, take the Space Force there and say, y'all going to Ganymede or Titan, so practice your flying skills.
Yeah.
Where you can act like Buck Rogers when they had them flying around.
Yeah. And the only reason why I know it's Saturn for that Titan moon and everything was because of Eureka TV series. I was like, oh, I know that one. I'm this smart because I watch TV. TV
No,
show you.
I always forget the names. It's like Ganymede, you have Titan, you have a few other ones that are really nice areas to go to and will be great places for locations to put outposts.
Yeah.
And one of the companies I'm working with right now submitted paperwork to them, and we're going to try to do a joint venture with their armor and exoskeletons and everything else they're working on, is submit mine to like Space Force and see if we can get some grant money coming in to help fund us. And because they can make a construction battalion for Space Force, so that way they have equipment and can go to any of the moons and planets in the solar system and start building out small bases. That way they have, it'd be like the Antarctic. We have the army there controlling most everything and supplies. And you have Space Force there and have working scientists doing research all the time. And you just have Space Force doing the logistics and acting like the Coast Guard. When somebody breaks down, they fly out to help.
Yeah, that would actually be kind of interesting. Of course, I just ended up finishing up on Endurance, the expedition from like 1914. So that could have helped. But now saying that and everything, if the AIs and I'm just doing a silly joke on this one. If the AIs get up and going and it start demanding subversion to the human clan and everything like that, and the robots, you are taking those kind of precautions so you don't have like a robot army up there on the moon, right?
Depends. Are the robot army working for me?
Ah, dude, no. Yeah, Todd. Can't be doing that. I'll be with you.
Take over the whole moon.
Yeah.
It's mine now. It's my backyard.
Hey guys, I forgot to tell you, it's my moon now. What makes you think that? Dude, really? I wonder what the legality of that would actually be.
Technically, there is no legal thing on that, because as a government entity,
No,
I can't control anything. I can't own property.
Yeah.
As an individual, technically, I can't own anything. Anything I process and make mine is mine. But that's just what, like the mining equipment, getting up dirt, moving it, and making metal and stuff. But there's also technicality is, if nobody's willing to stand up and take it from me,
exactly.
it's mine.
Yeah, it's one of those. Have you ever read this thing called Sun Tzu and How to Be a Warlord? I think you have not yet.
But no, I mean, like my company, if I can get it right, I want to have the profits, not all of it, but some, going to St. Jude's cancer awareness and also veterans charities, kind of like Black Rifle Coffee, and all that, and give back to the community. Now, I might have a bunch of angry veterans working with me, constantly cussing me out, and that's fine with me. As long as you do your job, I don't care. But no, I really don't think that the AI part of it is, if it's for what we use, what would the rovers do? Slowly chase you down with the buckets, trying to grind you up? I mean,
yeah,
there's not a, yes, you're not going to be running real fast on the moon, but I ain't going to be doing a whole lot of, I mean, there's just not much I can really do. I ground you, fuck people up. It's mine now. There's just nothing going on. AI can be as ruthless as it wants, but technically a couple of good sledgehammer swings, and it ain't going to have a power supply with no solar panels on it.
I know, right? But I just pictured someone just a knife on one of the
solar panels, and you start walking away, and it just till it runs out of power.
Well, a lot of people are scared of that, but we don't have the what was it? Oh man, I just had the thought of it because
Well, we got the
car was
Gemini
like-
guy that is actually being used with Tesla cars for driving.
yeah, but
And
you have to have like a very high quantum processor, I think it's called.
yes, you can
But you-
have that, or you can actually have processors that's neural linked together. And
yeah, that's right.
the processors all, instead of having one communicate with another one to another one, it's more like a spider web where this one can talk to any of the
Yeah.
chips and it's directly linked to it. So it's a really big mess of wiring, kind of like your brain.
It's basically a hive mind type
Yes.
deal, like the
Those
board.
little processors each communicate, and it can process a lot more. That's more like what the Dojo chip is that Tesla's building and other ones are building right now, because the
I haven't read anything about that.
more processor speed and more accumulation at one point. The quantum entanglement and chips, those are great and everything, but right now they still have to be super cooled.
Yeah. Well, if you have your stuff in space, wouldn't it be a little bit easier?
Well, you still have a hot sun that blows down on it. So it goes from negative 170 Celsius to 120 degrees Celsius. So you got about, 290 degree change in Celsius. That is a big swing.
Yeah.
So it won't take much to little bit of heating up and your quantum computer is just dead for a while. It has to reboot.
Yeah, that is true. I've totally forgot it. It's one of those things, just like you think you're smart on this part, and you're like, oh yeah, you could just do it this way. Didn't you forget about this? Oh fuck yeah, damn it, yeah, totally right.
Most of our technology is going really well in specific spots. Right now, it's coming down to your metallurgy and your new materials that we're coming up with is making the advances that allows us to eventually get super conductive material and processors and everything else quicker and faster.
Yeah.
And also, if you assemble it and make it in low gravity, then that actually opens up a lot more material that can be made. Because like fiber optics made in space is better than fiber optics made on Earth, because you can make it more rounded. You got less pits and around the edge of it. It's smoother and it's more conformed, because if it's made here on Earth, even you got the outside atmospheric pressure pressing on it, then you have gravity, so you're gonna have one little piece that's a little bit thinner, one's a little bit wider, so that can cause fluctuations in your signal as it goes along.
So yeah. I had to use that. I actually had to use that gravity theory with water and everything just recently because of fucking flat earther. God, I hate those people. I was like, yeah, drop a droplet of water. What does it do? Oh, it makes it round. So in space, what does it do with the droplet of water? Well, it makes it round.
It just centers around itself, and depends on how much atmospheric pressure, depends how big that little water pocket is, and it won't move. It will just, and if you're got air conditioning and stuff like that, like on the International Space Station, it's going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
But if you actually didn't have any of that and just had a complete sealed container, you're not going to have that problem. It'll just be a completely round sphere, and probably one of the most perfectly circumference materials there is at the time.
Yeah. I guess that's about it. I mean, we're shooting on an hour and everything like that, so we can go ahead and call it here. This is Todd Heath, working with Hephaestus Industries. Sorry, my brain's not working. Go ahead and let everybody know where you can get in contact and everything like that. And
our website is hephaestusindustries.com. I have the email. We are also on Instagram and Facebook. I have basically it falls under my name right now. And I have 3 employees, None of us getting paid right now, but we're working at it.
That's pretty much my podcast right now. Everybody helps me. No. Someone gets like $10 every time they help me out. So only because of food.
But no, we that's all after we get the first couple of rovers built and can show them off, we'll probably do a crowdsourcing and to raise more funds, including things with military unit coins. And that way, if you see me at the airport, when Hephaestus takes off and you catch me, depends which coin, say, hey, you owe me a beer. I'll buy you a beer. You got the more advanced coin, I'll buy you a meal. Whatever it takes to get us going. And I'll probably load up all my vehicles, all my rovers into the vehicle and go down to SpaceX and park it out in front of SpaceX and let them run wild to get, Elon Musk's attention and say, these need to go on the first human landing system that goes to the moon just so we can test it out. And because right now, if we can, I think they're going for $4,000 an ounce of material for, if you get regolith and bring it back, NASA's paying $4,000 an ounce, I think.
Oh, wow.
And we can end up possibly getting like 180 pounds of materials in both buckets if they could actually bring it back.
Yeah.
But they'll probably just leave it there. So, but hey, if we can test it and see what works and what's better, and we can modify it before we actually go 100% in, that would be amazing.
All right, buddy.
We can only test so much here on Earth with the atmosphere and the gravity, and we can't change those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Dave Dickerman. I'll let y'all thank you all for listening and watching, whatever you're getting our podcast through, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching. Love you guys. Bye.